I was when I first stepped into the Zimmer mansion officially as Serafina's study companion. My grandfather had served Serafina's grandfather, Mr. Zimmer Sr., his entire life. Me becoming her companion, that was framed as an act of considerable generosity, a lifeline for someone from my background. I trailed Serafina Zimmer from her exclusive private elementary school through middle school, then a prestigious prep school in New York City, and eventually, we even went to college abroad together. I was on a payroll before I even hit my teens. Mr. Zimmer Sr. paid me to be his eyes and ears, to report if Serafina did anything scandalous at school. I'd grown up in a small town in the Rust Belt with my parents. After they died in a car accident, I was sent to live with my grandfather, who then arranged my place with the Zimmers in NYC. When I first arrived, my grandfather warned me that if I didn't behave, I'd be sent back to fend for myself. I never forgot his words, "Stay in line." Serafina wasn't so bad when we were little. She was like a doll in a display case, meticulously crafted with an elite education, surrounded by a legion of nannies, tutors, coaches, and me, all there to ensure her every whim was met. But once she hit middle school, she developed a mean streak, so I told Mr. Zimmer Sr. everything. The love letters Serafina collected, the fights she got into, the drinking, the smoking, how she paraded boys around like trophies. For a long time, Serafina despised me for it. During that period, she stopped her wild behavior at school. After class, she'd just stand coolly in the hallway, soaking up the admiring gazes from the boys. But when it was time to go home, and I'd follow her to the car, she'd drag me into some shadowy corner of the school. She'd run her hands over me, not in a nice way, or yank my hair, then lean in and whisper, "Are you in love with me, Caspian? Is that why you scare off all my prospects so you can have me all to yourself?" Then she'd add with a sneer, "As if I'd ever like a leech like you. You're a scrawny charity case. Hey, freeloader, I just touched you. Gonna run and tell Grandma Zimmer?" After a few times I got scared. I started making excuses. I had to clean the classroom. I had an upset stomach. A teacher kept me after. Anything to avoid riding home with her. In high school, thanks to her connections, I got into the top track at an elite international school, but I struggled to keep up. Everyone else was aiming for Ivy League schools or universities overseas. I didn't want to go abroad. I wanted to stay in the States, be near my grandfather. So I went to Mr. Zimmer Sr. and told him I wanted to transfer to a public school, one where I could focus on the SATs and a regular U.S. college path. He agreed. I chose to live in the dorms at my new high school, no more living under the Zimmer's roof, always feeling like an outsider. It was liberating. I even made real friends. Before tagging along with Serafina, her glamour was too blinding. Her circle was all trust fund kids who looked down on me. No one wanted to be friends with a charity case. While my high school life was going smoothly, Serafina's was a mess. She was either fighting or crashing cars. She'd taken street racing. Several times, she didn't even come home, running off to clubs with her rich kid posse. One vacation, when I was back at the Zimmer mansion, she actually brought home some flamboyant guy her father clearly didn't approve of. Mr. Zimmer, Serafina's dad, took a belt to her. He beat her hard for a good half hour. Her backside was black and blue. She spent days lying face down in bed recovering. Grandma Zimmer ed on her granddaughter. The Zimmer family line wasn't exactly booming. Mr. Zimmer Sr. only had one son, Serafina's dad, who in turn only had Serafina. Grandma Zimmer asked me to look after Serafina, bring her meals, encourage her to read. Around Serafina back then, I was a mute. She hated me, and the feeling was mutual. I placed her food tray in front of her, wait minutes. If she didn't eat, I'd either eat it myself or dump it in the toilet, then take the empty tray out. Mission accomplished. That was my little revenge for how she tormented me in middle school. Once she'd snapped the waistband of my jeans, the elastic stinging my stomach. She'd corner me in deserted parts of the school, blocking my way. She'd grip my wrists seemingly without effort, but I could never break free. That time was a nightmare. She played with me like a cat with a half-dead mouse, watching me struggle. I cried, told her I was sorry, that I shouldn't have ratted her out to her grandfather. I even pulled my debit card on my backpack, offered to give her back all the money I'd earned, begging her to leave me alone. It was the first time I cried like that since my parents died. I was terrified she'd never stop. I had no friends back then, and I couldn't tell my grandfather. He was just as dependent on Zimmer's as I was. It would only worry him. I knew what bullying was. and I knew if Serafina hated me more, with a flick of a wrist, I'd become a total pariah. That day, Serafina had casually stuffed the debit card back into my bag, tugged my collar to look me over, and said disdainfully, "Freeloader, stay out of my business from now on." After that, no matter what Serafina did at school, I told Mr. Zimmer Sr. that everything was fine. Sometimes Serafina would oversleep and miss breakfast. Her mom and grandmother worried she'd starve, would have me take breakfast to her at school. I'd go to school with her meal, hide my face behind a textbook during homeroom, and secretly eat it myself. I had a huge appetite back then. Nobody ever asked her if she'd eaten, and she'd never ask a freeloader like me about her breakfast. That's how we got through middle school, with me paying lip service while doing my own thing. So now, with her laid up, beaten, and recovering, if she starved, it wasn't my problem. She ate sometimes. If she didn't, and I felt like it, I ate it. If I didn't, I tossed it. That particular day, she was in one of her princess moods, playing video games on her phone, cussing up a storm. When she saw me come in, she turned her back. I deliberately placed the bowl of rich lobster bisque her mom had sent up just out of reach. As expected, she wouldn't deign to move for it herself, nor would she ask me to move it closer. After 5 minutes, I picked up the bisque, went to her balcony, and stood there admiring the city view. I was texting my friends in our group chat, complaining about her royal weirdness while sipping her mom's expensive soup. That stuff probably cost a fortune per bowl. I practically licked it clean. Princess's ass is toast. Princess is seriously messed up. Walks around with a permanent scowl like she's terminally constipated. Seeing her get disciplined, pure gold, ha. Karma's a bitch. My friends in the group chat try to cheer me up, telling me to get out of that toxic environment and come back to school. One girl in the chat, Elara Vaughn, met me separately. She sent a long, encouraging message, telling me to study hard, get into a good college, find a decent job, and then I could support myself and wouldn't have to take crap from anyone. Elara was brilliant, Ivy League material. She was in the advanced track at school. I'd only gotten into that track because of the Zimmer connection, and I was barely keeping up. Elara and my desk mate Maya Davis helped me the most. Elara was one of those driven students. Her grandparents and parents were all doctors, and her dream was to become one too. I envied her. She wasn't just smart. She knew exactly what she wanted out of life. I had no clue what I wanted, what I even liked. I once watched a teen drama where the main guy was a doctor, and I thought maybe I'd like to be one. Serafina, who was nearby, scoffed. "If you killed a patient, don't come cry to my family to clean up your mess." I thought about being a Wall Street hotshot. She said they were just corporate drones, working themselves to death. I considered becoming a teacher. She said, someone as pathetic as me would never get any respect from students, and she'd love to see that happen. There were 6 of us in the group chat. They started talking about Homework, a new movie that was out, a great Korean barbecue place. Elara was still trying to console me, say she'd been bullied when she was younger too and had been really withdrawn, but she was completely over it now. I was touched. She was sharing her own pain just to make me feel better. Just as I was about to reply, a slender, pale hand snatched my phone. It was Serafina. She scrolled through my messages, a chilling smile playing on her delicate features, her eyes cold and hard. She draped an arm over my shoulder. "This Elara," she asked, "is she that girl who patted your shoulder outside your crappy school the other day? Decent looking, good enough for a freeloader like you." Then she used my phone to send a voice message to Elara. Her tone flat. "This is his girlfriend. While I'm done playing with him, you can pick up the scraps." Then she blocked and deleted Elara's contact. I tried to grab my phone back. She held it just out of reach, a smirk on her face. Princess's ass may be sore, but she still got her princess attitude. And then she threw my phone off the balcony. That evening, Serafina told her grandfather that she still needed me to keep an eye on her, that I was the only thing that kept her in line. Her father and grandfather needed an informant anyway. They said they could send me to college abroad with her, and they'd give me a month to watch Serafina. Only an idiot turns down that kind of money. Dignity wasn't going to pay the bills, was it? I want to go back to my school and say goodbye to my friends, but she wouldn't let me. She watched me like a hawk. "Caspian Haze," she'd sneer, "destined to be poor, a broke loser like you. Instead of studying, all you think about is dating. You'll end up with some broke girl. Maybe if I'm in a good mood someday, I'll let your broke wife come work as a maid for me." When Serafina mocked me, I couldn't react. Once I'd accidentally, None of your damn business, she'd exploded, stopping me from doing my homework, demanding to know if it was her business or not, even threatening to go to my grandfather to settle it. I thought she was insane, but in the end I had to grovel, apologize, say I was blind not to appreciate her concern. Sorry. Senior year, we were applying to colleges. Serafina already had her acceptance letters, but her chosen university was way out of my league, and honestly, I didn't want to be in the same city as her, yet. Ever since she'd picked her school, the team of elite tutors her family hired for me only suggested universities in Boston, the same city she was going to. Her family didn't actually want us too close, but having me in the same city to run errands for them was apparently necessary. So I ended up applying to university in Boston too. After I got my acceptance letter and the Zimmers deposited a hefty sum, enough for several years of tuition, into my account, I managed to smile for Serafina. As much as she tormented me, without the Zimmers I wouldn't be going to a good college, nor would I have had access to all those top-tier tutors. Serafina was flying south to her aunt's place for a few days vacation. The moment she was gone, I bought a new phone. I still had Maya's number memorized. While my old friends were slogging through their final exams, I'd visit them on weekends. It was a happy reunion. They'd listen to my stories about Serafina's crazy antics, and we'd all ran together. I listened to them talk about their lives over the past couple of years and their plans for the future. We were at a food truck park eating tacos, drinking sodas, laughing our heads off, when I looked up and saw Serafina, hands shoved in her pockets, glaring at me. She strode over, her expression one of icy disdain. Caspian haze, coming or not? I looked at my freshly poured soda, not one of a loose face in front of my friends. You go ahead, I'll head back later, I haven't finished my drink. She picked up my soda and smashed it on the ground. Coming? She asked again. Before I could answer, she grabbed my wrist and started pulling me away. Alara and Maya, thinking she was bullying me, tried to stop her. Serafina, who'd taken boxing lessons because her father was afraid she'd get hurt, started swinging. I was stunned. I seriously wondered if Serafina had rabies. Alara went down almost immediately. I lunged forward and wrapped my arms around Serafina, trying to stop her from hitting anyone else. Like all her previous fights, she seemed completely unfazed. Later, I heard Serafina's father yelling at her in his study. Are you an idiot? If you don't like someone, do you really have to deal with him yourself, huh? He wasn't angry that she'd fought, just that she'd done it herself. There were people who worked for their family, other ways to make people she disliked disappear quietly, perhaps without them ever knowing she was the cause. A chill went down my spine. When she came out of the study, I quickly followed her. Her face was still a cold mask. Before entering her room, she gave me a look. It felt significant, but I didn't understand it then. I just trailed her nervously into her suite, wanted to beg her not to be angry, and especially not to harm Alara or Maya. Her bedroom opened into a sitting area. She was lounging on the sofa, head pillowed on her arm. Seeing me, she smirked. Yeah, that was impulsive today. I should have just hired a truck driver to run them all over. What do you think? Want to die with them for love? My hands were shaking. I didn't even know why she hated Alara and the others so much. All I could say was, that's illegal, Ms. Zimmer. Why bother with them? Let me apologize to you, okay? Please don't be angry anymore. It was my fault today. You came to take me back to the Zimmer house, and I dared to talk back. She got up, circled me with feigned interest, and tilted my chin up. Oh, apologize in what capacity? What do you possibly have to offer as an apology? Everything you wear, everything you have, isn't it all for my family? She leaned in, her hand on my shoulder, whispering in my ear, you do have a body. If you're willing, I'll forget about it. We went to Boston for college, still living in her family's townhouse there. She said she didn't like servants disturbing her, so I was the only one in the entire house catering to her every need. When she was in a good mood, she'd say at dinner, Caspian, come to my room tonight, like an emperor summoning a consort. If she was in a bad mood, she'd just glower and say nothing. I never understood why she always looked so pissed off. She was a golden child. Everything was handed to her on a silver platter. She gave me $1 a month, American dollars, so I provided service with a smile. Her demands were endless. I wasn't allowed to talk to other girls. My phone had to be available for her inspection at any time to check for new contacts. She'd go through my social media, looking for any signs of disloyalty. Once for a group project, I had to add a female classmate. Serafina was in France at the time. I figured I'd delete the contact after the project was done. College was exhausting, late nights reading, researching, writing papers. I had a bit of a cold that day. After our group discussion, which ended after PM, the girl offered me a ride home. Just as we pulled up, Serafina was there waiting at the door, her face like a thundercloud. My classmate even asked if I needed her to call the cops if I was being abused. Serafina was furious. Her anger didn't manifest in hitting, but in bed, on her terms, at her pace. Sometimes I thought she wanted to drain me dry. Other times I thought she was genuinely psychotic and needed to be in a mental hospital getting shock therapy. Eventually, I spiked a high fever. She fed me medicine, asking between spoonfuls, "Who's the best to you?" I coughed and said her name, but my whole body ached like I'd been run over by a truck. Still, she was like a maniac. In the dead of night, instead of sleeping, she dragged me out of bed, saying she'd rush back just to celebrate my birthday. Then she made me dance with her, spinning and spinning, and force-fed me half a cake, so sweet I never wanted to see cake again in my life. This was her way of torturing me. Finally, she asked if I'd ever be with another woman again. I felt like my soul had been sucked out, leaving only an empty shell. Barely breathing, my vision blurred. I clung to her, sobbing that I wouldn't, never again. She just said, "Good boy, I wouldn't want to catch anything nasty." I was on medication for 4 solid years. Sometimes I wondered if I'd been marinated in her toxicity to my very core. Senior year, Serafina asked me to bring a textbook she'd forgotten to campus. After I left, her classmate asked who I was. She just smiled and said, "The family's manservant." Honestly, I thought Serafina Zimmer was a lost cause, a spoiled, rotten brat. No matter how good her education, deep down she looked down on ordinary people like me, seeing us as ants existing only to make money for her family or serve her like Buster. At graduation, she told me to pack my things. We were going to Los Angeles. She'd been dabbling in investments for years and wasn't in a hurry to go home and inherit her throne. She wanted to play on her own first. Go to LA for what? I had graduated. I had millions of dollars saved in my account. For years I'd been her puppet on a string, doing whatever she wanted, being whoever she wanted me to be. If she wanted to go somewhere, I had to drop everything and accompany her, then pull all-nighters to catch up on my own work. Did she really think I was her permanent underling? I suspected that if this continued, she'd probably expect me to polish her new husband's shoes on their honeymoon and then occasionally favor me. To hell with being her companion. To hell with Serafina Zimmer. I mixed sleeping pills into her milk. When she was asleep, I took her phone, transferred all the money from her main account to one of mine. Then I spat in her general direction and ran. Those tens of millions of dollars. Consider it compensation for my emotional distress. I was never going to serve that awful woman again in my life. 5 years later, I'd returned to the States and settled down in a small, obscure town in Vermont nestled in the Green Mountains. I had a hearty chicken stew simmering on the stove when I went out. Arriving at the local preschool, I noticed a surprising number of luxury cars parked outside. Seemed like a big deal. The yard was crowded with parents picking up their kids. I overheard someone say a wealthy benefactor was there to make a large donation to the school, hence the commotion. The children, bundled up, looked like adorable, sturdy little calves. When the bell rang, they burst out, a wave of joyful noise. Among them, I saw a little boy who looked remarkably like me. I couldn't be sure, not until a familiar figure emerged holding the child, the center of everyone's attention. The preschool principal and teachers were fawning over her. A flowing dress concealed her venomous soul. She stood across the yard, a smug, triumphant smile on her face, and I was rooted to the spot. That demon. Who else could it be but Serafina Zimmer? I felt my whole body go rigid. I remember that birthday, how it took me a week in bed to recover. It was right before winter break. I grabbed my luggage and money and fled. At least I wouldn't have to see her during holidays. On the 4th day of my escape, she'd found me at the hotel I'd booked, confiscated all my money and cards, and told me if I ever pulled a stunt like that again, she'd make sure I ended up in a wheelchair. That time she'd cooed sweetly. This time I went too far. I lost control. But you're not entirely blameless, Caspian. You promised me you wouldn't get involved with other girls. Why did you add that person and let her drive you home? The logic was always on her side. I couldn't imagine what fresh hell she'd unleash now. The principal and teachers were beaming. They announced that Miss Zimmer was the generous donor, that she was considering enrolling her own child here. I stared frozen at the child in her arms, the spitting image of me, paralyzed. Just then, Serafina leaned in close, her voice a soft whisper in my ear. Mr. Hayes, my pet ran away a few years ago. I haven't been able to find him. What do you think I should do? I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. She was definitely here to cause trouble. The little boy, however, beamed at me and shouted, Daddy. She'd been pregnant, and she'd had the baby. Several men, looking like bodyguards and assistants, flanked her. The principal, Mr. Peterson, was a sharp guy. Noticing the resemblance between the boy and me, he said, Mr. Hayes, Ms. Zimmer is here to look over the area, hasn't quite decided where to stay yet. I hear your place is quite spacious and you two are old acquaintances. Perhaps Miss Zimmer could stay with you for a few days? Serafina smiled condescendingly. That would be very kind of you, Mr. Peterson. Then to me, then I'll be troubling you, Caspian. I walked numbly ahead. The little boy's soft hand slipped into mine. Daddy, he asked, Mommy said you weren't good and ran away. Why did you run away? Don't you like Leo? I didn't know Leo existed. My mind was a complete mess. I didn't like Serafina, but she'd had my child. This kid. One look and you knew. Blood ties are a strange thing. The moment I saw him, my heart melted. How could I explain? Leo was so young. He was just a child. He'd missed out on a father. Should I burden him with adult complexities? Tell him I left because I didn't like his mother? What would that make him think about his own existence? I knelt, looked him in the eye, and said seriously, Daddy didn't run away. Daddy just got lost. Now Mommy and Leo have found Daddy and Daddy's not going anywhere ever again. Daddy will stay and watch Leo grow up. Leo cheered, yay. Leo is so happy. Serafina's entourage settled into other rustic cabins in a small, isolated community. Back in my cabin, I asked Serafina, Ms. Zimmer, will you be having dinner, all right? Leo was playing in the yard. She looked around my place, taking it all in. When I went into the kitchen, she followed me, pressing close behind me. Didn't you used to call me by my first name? YMS Zimmer now. It sounds so distant. I don't like it. I tried to edge away from her. What do you want? I pleaded. Nothing much, just checking up on my runaway pet, seeing how he's living. Oh, and by the way, didn't you take some of my money when you left? She patted my shoulder. But I won't hold that against you. Leo came in sweaty. Mommy, I'm thirsty. I quickly poured Leo some lukewarm water. At the dinner table, Leo and I chatted. I asked him about preschool, who his best friend was, what games he liked to play. Leo answered between bites, and when he got excited, he'd ask Serafina to show me pictures and videos on her phone of him winning awards or performing. Finally, Leo said, Daddy, I'm a good boy. You be a good boy and come back with me and Mommy. Our family needs to be together. Everyone in this remote settlement knew each other. Many rented out cabins to tourists, but it was so out of the way, several transfers after getting off the train deep in the mountains, that tourists were rare. If Serafina could find me here, there was no escape. After Leo finished eating, he grabbed his toys and ran out to play with the other kids in the yard. I cleared the table and said to Serafina, Let's talk. What do you really want? The money I took back then, I can return it. I hadn't touched it. If returning the money would make her leave me alone, I'd gladly give it back. As for the child, I would fulfill my responsibilities as a father. She lounged on the sofa, patting the spot next to her, an old gesture, her way of telling me to sit there. As much as I disliked Serafina, whenever she tried to seduce me, I was utterly defenseless. I took a step back, my fist clenched. I won't get back together with you. I don't like you and I don't want to continue that kind of relationship. Oh, found someone else? Who is it? Tell me. She maintained that same breezy, unconcerned expression. I shook my head frantically. There's no one else. Laughter erupted from the children outside. We both looked toward the window. They were playing marbles. She had moved beside me without my noticing, one hand resting on my waist. He's a cute kid. Her voice was laced with a dangerous allure. You had a part in that, didn't you? If I sued you for child abandonment, had you thrown in jail, you wouldn't object, would you? My hand reaching to push hers away froze. What do you really want? All right, stop crying. She wiped my tears. I've done a lot of thinking these past few years. Why did my little pet run away? Was I not good enough to you? She kept me as a pet, tormented me for her emotional satisfaction, but she paid me. It was a transaction. I don't want to live like that forever, I mumbled, biting my lip. Miss Zimmer, I have my own life. I didn't sell myself to you. You were good to me, gave me money, good education. I almost added against my better judgment that she was generally good to me, but the memory of her suffocating control stopped me. But I don't want to work for you anymore. Miss Zimmer, I don't think I'm handsome and I'm pretty dull. Maybe you should find some other guys you like who are willing to play with you. She pinned me against the wall, one hand braced beside my head blocking my escape, the other twirling a strand of my hair. She raised an eyebrow. So we were together for over 4 years, and you just thought of it as a job, and you never loved me, right? Sleeping with me was just work? Don't you know prostitution is illegal? I tried to push her away. Didn't you treat me like a manservant? Pet, anyway? I didn't sell myself, and I quit. She didn't budge, gripping my chin. I didn't call a stop to the game. What right do you have to end it? And let me tell you, what I set my sights on, even if it dies, rots, and stinks, it stays by my side. With that she kissed me. I bit her lip hard. Her mouth filled with blood. She just looked at me and smiled, seemingly in a good mood. Save some energy. I have plenty of time to play with you. When Serafina showed up, my grandfather immediately video called. He bombarded me with questions. Why had I disappeared for so long? Everyone was worried. They'd search for me. Afraid something had happened, I mumbled an apology. Serafina took the phone, held Leo in her arms, and told my grandfather that Leo and I had been reunited. Then she added, "Don't worry, he hasn't been mistreated by anyone." Everyone on the call was stunned. They demanded we return immediately, or they'd come get us. I thought Serafina was insane. Why was she making such a big deal out of this? That night Leo insisted on sleeping with me. Daddy, do you not love Mommy? Are you scared of Mommy? I stroked his face, saying nothing. Then why don't you live with us? I held him close. Inside, under pressure from the elders, and with no way to escape Serafina's watch, I packed my bags and boarded a helicopter with her and Leo. Leo was full of questions the whole way. Serafina played the role of the patient, all-knowing mother perfectly. Once Leo fell asleep, she said to me disdainfully, "Look at you. If you hadn't run off for all these years, what I've had to deal with this little terror all by myself." I completely ignored her. Arriving at the Zimmer estate, a crowd was waiting for us. My grandfather pulled me aside, saying Serafina had told him everything about us. Serafina's story to everyone was that we'd fallen in love in college, but she was busy with her career and didn't have time for me. So thinking she didn't love me, I ran off on my own. She sure knew how to make herself look good. My grandfather told me to stop being difficult. We had a child, and the Zimmers were willing to accept me as Leo's father, so I should come back. My grandfather might be my blood relative, but his loyalty was to Mr. Zimmer Sr. He'd lived in the Zimmer household for so long. Even if I was his grandson, he wasn't necessarily on my side. When Leo couldn't stay awake any longer and a maid was about to carry him to his room, I quickly said, "I'll take him." I rushed over and gathered Leo into my arms. I knew it was futile, but I couldn't help but try. Everyone sat down to talk. Grandma Zimmer said, "Now that there's a child and Leo is so smart and adorable, he can't live in a broken home. You two should get married quickly." Serafina's father huffed, "You two have been reckless. Since there's a child, get the wedding over with. Don't make it too grand. We can't afford the embarrassment." Serafina's mother said, "Let's respect the young people's wishes." Caspian, what are your thoughts? I took a deep breath. Serafina was staring daggers at me. I lowered my eyes. I don't love Serafina. I won't marry her. She doesn't love me either. I'm not happy by her side at all. Leo, we can co-parent. I'm willing to live in New York. I can be a full-time dad to Leo. When you want to see him, I'll bring him over. If you have educational plans for him, I can cooperate. I'd missed so many years of Leo's life. I wanted to make it up to him with all my heart. He couldn't grow up feeling insecure like I did. The atmosphere suddenly turned icy. They said the matter could be discussed further and told me to stay with Leo for the time being. I wanted to stay in a hotel, but I didn't dare say anything else defiant. So I took Leo to a guest room on the second floor. Previously at the Zimmer house, I'd always stayed in the servants' quarters on the first floor. Sigh. At dinner that evening, Leo was once again the center of attention. He chatted in his little kid voice about finding me in the mountain cabins with Serafina, about being praised by his teacher, about his best friend. After dinner, he was taken to the playroom. Serafina then dragged me upstairs. Quite the nerve, aren't you? Daring to refuse to marry me? Don't tell me you think just because those old folks are around I wouldn't dare do anything to you. I kept my head down, silent. She gripped my chin. Caspian, you were pretty talkative this afternoon. I turned my head away, speaking softly. No matter what you do, I'm not your family servant anymore, and I won't sell myself to you. You can't force me. We are Leo's parents. I don't want to ruin our relationship and affect Leo, so we can be strangers who don't talk much. She laughed as if I'd told a joke. Her chest vibrated with laughter, and then she burst out laughing. I suspected she was mentally ill. Serafina left the Zimmer estate. I don't know where she went. I stayed and looked after Leo. When I said I wanted to move out, everyone tried to persuade me. If you don't like Serafina, she must have done something to upset you. Just don't be with her then. But if you and Leo live here on the estate, everyone can look out for each other, and you won't be all alone. Isn't that good? My grandfather added that he was old, didn't have many years left, and didn't want to leave Mr. Zimmer Sr., nor did he want me to leave him. Serafina didn't reappear. Leo soon started preschool in the villa complex on the estate grounds. Leo adored me, clinging to me every day. Mr. Zimmer Sr. gifted me a smaller house in the residential area at the foot of the main estate, saying that if I didn't want to see Serafina, I could move down there. When she returned, Serafina was gone for 2 months. When we met again, it was winter. Grandma Zimmer and the others were talking about going south for a vacation. That night, after packing my suitcase and drinking some milk, I fell asleep holding Leo. When I woke up, I was in a completely unfamiliar room. The bed I was on was enclosed by a golden cage, and an iron chain was shackled to my ankle. Serafina was sitting on the balcony, leisurely flipping through a magazine. Beyond the balcony was an endless expanse of wilderness. Serafina had kidnapped me. She'd taken my phone and fabricated an excuse for why I wasn't going on vacation. I stared at her. This is illegal. She pinched my chin, kissed me lightly, then said disdainfully, "Then go call the police." She smilingly handed me my phone. Just as I reached for it, she tossed it against the wall where it shattered. My little pet doesn't like me, so we'll cultivate our feelings here. When you start liking me, I'll let you out. I've been thinking about why you don't like me. It's probably because I haven't fed you much, so I decided to start feeding you today. Her idea of feeding was treating me like a disabled person, feeding me, bathing me. At first, I slapped her. She just stroked my calf and said airily, "Why don't we skip the effort? I could just break your legs, save you from becoming increasingly disobedient." I could only apologize, saying I'd never dare again. We stayed in that remote villa for 3 days. Leo wanted a video chat. Each time Serafina would make an excuse, saying I had a bad cold and was sleeping. After hanging up, Serafina asked me, "If I just said you died in a car accident, who do you think would bother to check if it's true?" Her meaning was clear. She intended to lock me up with impunity for the rest of my life. I surrendered. She was a lunatic. I could only try to please her, tearfully admitting I was wrong, saying I liked her. She wanted proof. Every day when I saw her, I had to tell her I loved her, even kiss her. It was disgusting. Why couldn't she just be a decent human being? Serafina finally showed some mercy and drove me back. She said if I wasn't good, next time she'd lock me up until I died. This time she announced we had reconciled and we're going to have a wedding. The wedding was in the spring. We got the marriage license first. I couldn't believe I was actually marrying the person I hated most in the world, destined to live with her. But then again, I'd lived like this for years already. It wouldn't kill me. Serafina wanted us to move out of the main Zimmer estate because it was too far from her office. That plan failed because Grandma Zimmer and the others didn't want Leo to leave, and I wouldn't leave Leo. Leo's preschool organized a national study tour for the children. Serafina had to fly out of state for a business deal. Before she left, she kissed me and asked, "Caspian Hayes, you're not going to run away again this time, are you?" I swore. "I absolutely won't run. Really, trust me." She let out a stifled laugh. "If you run, I'll abandon Leo. If you manage to take Leo with you, don't worry, my parents would probably have every federal agent in the country performing indoctrinations on every tiger in every zoo looking for you both." She patted her stomach. "Why aren't I pregnant yet?" She didn't actually like children. She just wanted more leverage over me. While accompanying Leo on a study tour, I formulated countless escape plans, but they were nearly impossible to execute. Surveillance cameras were everywhere. If I disappeared for even a short while, teachers would be looking. There are more security guards than children, and someone like Serafina would undoubtedly have precautions in place against me. Leo couldn't live a life on the run, hiding with me. I looked at Leo's slightly sweaty, excited face and sighed in resignation. He was my Achilles heel. While we were resting in our hotel room, I asked him, "Leo, do you like your mommy?" Leo, absorbed in a puzzle, didn't look up. Leo likes mommy and Leo likes daddy. But Leo likes daddy more because mommy is busy and doesn't play games with Leo. Mommy often doesn't have patience. Daddy has patience. Daddy plays games with Leo. But daddy doesn't like mommy. How do you know daddy doesn't like mommy? Daddy isn't as happy as when we were in the cabins in Vermont, and daddy always watches mommy's face. When mommy comes home, daddy practically shrinks away. Daddy would rather sleep with Leo in the kids' room than with mommy. Because your mother is a psycho, kid. Who'd be happy around a psycho? I said, "No, daddy likes your mommy very much." Really? He looked at me intently, even leaning his face close to mine, trying to pry my eyes open wider to see more clearly. His innocent, silly expression made me laugh. He grinned back and concluded, "Daddy is happy with Leo, but not happy with mommy." I looked at his face, so much like mine, and just said, "Leo, when you grow up." I wanted to say when he grew up, daddy wouldn't be with mommy anymore. But where could I possibly run? I could already imagine if I disappeared, Leo would look for me, worry about me. Leo looked at me, waiting for me to finish. I said, "When you grow up, make sure you find someone you really love to be with. That's how you'll be happy." He asked me, "Daddy, are you happy?" Daddy is very happy watching Leo grow up happy. Epilogue, Serafina's POV. Serafina Zimmer was a bad person, but everyone else saw her as a goddess. Only with Caspian Hayes was she her truest self. Nasty, wanted to bully him, wanted to see him cry. But that freeloader actually dared to ignore her. Wasn't he her companion? He took her family's money, but didn't do his job. And what was with him avoiding her like the plague? The first wet dream she ever had, the subject was Caspian Hayes. In a dream they were in a dark corner, and she saw him crying, just like in real life. Then she kissed his face gently, urgently. Sometimes the scent of him would make her whole body tingle. She really wanted to slap herself, getting worked up over a freeloader. The freeloader said he wanted to go to a regular high school, focus on the SATs. She scoffed internally. If he wanted to scram, he should scram sooner rather than later. She didn't care if he was with her, but she found herself getting used to him less and less, especially when she saw him at a school gate smiling so brightly and gently at that girl. She really wanted to drive over and run them both down. How dare he smile at someone else like that? She realized she was going crazy, developing possessive feelings for a freeloader. She decided she must just hate him so much that it created an illusion. What was so good about that damn freeloader? He was a far cry from her ideal boyfriend. She started partying with her friends constantly, trying to distract herself, but she couldn't stop herself from driving by his school, checking to see who he was flirting with now. She wasted 2 months like that, with that freeloader seducing her in her dreams every night. Fine, she had to find a way to get him back. She used the time her family was disciplining her as an opportunity to demand it, and she threw away his phone. Let's see how he contacted women on the outside now. He was like her shadow again, trailing behind her. Before, she wouldn't have felt anything for him, just found him a nuisance. But this time she couldn't stop looking at him, and every look made her angry. He always kept a certain distance from her. In the car, he'd press himself against the window, as if she were some kind of monster. She was the princess, the master. She would never stoop to chasing after this freeloader. She still dreamed about him. She was used to it by now. Later that damn freeloader actually stole her money and ran off. She searched for him like a madwoman, but after 2 months, nothing. She was also pregnant. She decided to go abroad, have the baby, and then continue the search. 5 years passed with no leads. Her son constantly asked where his daddy was, and she never knew how to answer. But her efforts weren't in vain. A month later, someone gave her a lead. The moment she heard, she took her son and went straight there. When they arrived, Serafina ceased to think he'd hide in such a remote place just to avoid her. Later, she used his grandfather to pressure him into coming back with her. He was reluctant at first, but couldn't withstand his grandfather's pleading. As soon as they got home, Her family told them to get married. She thought he'd agree, but he actually refused. She nearly died of anger. Her, rich and beautiful, with men lining up from here to Paris, deigning to be with him, and he dared to refuse? So she drugged him and locked him up. During that time, she took care of him like he was disabled. Eventually he yielded. They got their license and had a wedding not long after. Although they lived like a normal married couple afterward, he was still scared of her. Sometimes when she wanted to be intimate, he'd say he missed their son and leave. At this, she just scoffed. Whatever. What needed to be done had to be done, if not at night, then in the morning. Gradually he came to accept her. Their son grew up and began to take over the family business. When they finally got to go on their honeymoon.